Hello guys, that time of week again we're doing a book review, and this is our first Stephen King novel. Believe it or not, and it may be heresy to say this, but I had never ever read a Stephen King novel before this one. This was my very first time reading Stephen King. Obviously I'd heard of Stephen King, I knew of his classics, Cujo, The Green Mile, It, all those kind of things, Pet Sematary and all that. But this was the first one I actually read, cover to cover, all the way through. This is Stephen King, Cell. It came out in 2006, and it tells the story of a young artist by the name of Clayton Riddell, who is caught up in essentially an apocalypse, a zombie outbreak if you will, when a pulse, which is sent through all the mobile phones on the planet, starts turning people into walking zombies. And it details his attempts to find his son and reunite with his family. And on the way he picks up friends and meets people, new people, forms friendships, and it just details his story. And for me, Stephen King is very, very good at making you associate with a character, making you feel for a character. You actually want the character to succeed. I'm going to try and keep this as spoiler-free as I can, but every loss that they suffer, you feel. Every success or, seems to be success that they get, you are happy for them. Anything that happens to them that's negative, you really, really feel the emotion of what's happening to them. You really feel his desperation to want to find his son. You really feel for him when something bad happens or when something good happens. You really associate with these demons and with these happy thoughts and negative thoughts that he has, and the sense of despair. There's an overriding sense of complete despair throughout the entire book. I found myself thinking, what are they going to do now? Whenever they got into certain situations in the book, throughout the entire thing. And I think, from what I've heard of Stephen King from other people, that's where he thrives. His characters are his greatest achievement. Towards the end, he flubs a little bit, and I've heard again that that's quite a famous Stephen King characteristic. He seems to flub a little bit towards the ending. I won't ruin anything, but there's a scene towards the end where about half a dozen of the characters are written out of the book, written out of the novel, and then they're written back in a few chapters later. And for me, that just didn't make sense. Why write some people out if you're not going to keep them out, especially that close to the end of the book? In my opinion, when you write a character out of a book, you should keep them out. If it's near the ending, keep them out until either the grand finale or the epilogue, depending on context and what actually happened. But it was really, really weird. And there's a lot of commentary here on politics and society of the time, 2006. Obviously, the whole book is a critique of people's obsession with mobile phones, obviously at the time, and even more so today when we've got smartphones and things now. There's a lot of commentary on terrorism, which was obviously rife in 2006 after 9/11 and 7/7, and a lot of commentary on that kind of thing, and religion, and all that kind of atmosphere that we had in the early 2000s, if you remember it. A lot of that's in there, and that is really it. It's really, really worth a read. I would argue, even though I haven't read any other Stephen King books, it's probably not his greatest work. I'd imagine his greatest work is in the 70s or the 80s with Cujo or The Green Mile or It or something like that, or The Stand, one of those ones. So I will definitely read more Stephen King. This definitely left me wanting more. It left me wanting to know what happened. That to me is a sign of a great novel. It leaves quite a few loose ends open, and it makes you think, well, what happened? What happened? And that to me is a sign of a great book. It doesn't give you all the answers, and it leaves you craving more. And that for me is a good sign. As frustrating as it is for me, it's a sign of a great author, where you can read through a book that leaves all these loose ends and you don't just be like, whatever. You actually want to know. So go ahead and pick it up, read it if you haven't read it. Stephen King's Cell. I'll definitely be reading more Stephen King for you. Check it out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.